evening, everyone, and welcome to Pearls of Fisdom with me, Avan Dubash. Well, today on the show, we talk about an EPC player. They specialize in technology intensive areas like hydro, tunneling, irrigation, water supply, and is essentially a civil construction company. I'm talking about Patel Engineering. The company has a pretty healthy order book. They've also managed to see a very smart increase in their stock price, nearly 400% since the beginning of FY 24, 300% around. And we've got the acting CFO, which is Rahul Agarwal, now joining in to talk about the business prospects. Thank you so much for taking time out and joining in. Let's just talk a little bit about the sector as a whole, because the government has really been ramping up expenditures when it comes to hydropower projects. And there's been a lot of focus on this sector by and large. How does that really help Patel Engineering and the space as a whole?
I'll brief you about the sector. For hydro sector, almost 31 gigawatts of projects are expected to come up. In the next 1 or 2 years, the projects will start and it will take around 5-6 years to construct. So there's a huge potential coming up in hydro segment. And given the recent government focus on hydro as well as PSP projects, so there is huge scope in this sector. In the budget as well as a post budget, they have come up with various investment proposals from the center for these projects.
Okay, so let's talk numbers then. In terms of the kind of order book that you enjoy 18 to 19,000 crore rupees. How much will you add to your current order book value over the next few years, and what is going to drive that growth?
So what we expect is at least in next 1 year, 10 to 15,000 crores of new orders to come in. In terms of next 4-5 years, only hydro segment, if I consider 30 gigawatt of projects, almost it comes to about 1.5 lakh crores of work for civil works. And PSP projects also almost 60 gigawatt of projects are there in the survey and investigation stage. So all combined, I mean, more than 3 lakh crores of work is expected to come up in next 5-6 years. So we see a good chunk of orders coming to us, and we expect the order book to grow at a CAGR of 15-20%.
Okay, that sounds very promising. And there was also that MoU that you signed with Rail Vikas Nigam. Tell us a little bit more then about the hydro and infrastructure projects that you all are both looking to jointly pursue internationally and domestically, and what are the synergies of this MoU?
So we did an MoU with RVNL, which is a Navratna company, and they are quite big into infrastructure as well. So we want to bring in synergies in not even hydro and other segments also. What we are seeing is that huge, large size projects are expected to come up. So we would like to combine forces as and when possible. I mean, on a case to case basis, we'll see what synergies we can do, and accordingly, we'll come together and bid.
Okay, that sounds interesting. What is the outlook then in terms of the kind of huge opportunity that you're expecting in the hydropower sector for the year ahead? How do you look to really capitalize on the segment? And can you share with us currently what the share in hydropower execution stands at?
So what we seeing is hydropower projects. We expect to bid almost 40 to 50,000 crores of work of projects in the next year or so. And in terms of the current market share, almost 18,000 megawatt of works of projects are going on under hydro, out of which we are doing construction in almost 8,000 crores of megawatt. So 45%. And traditionally, if you see, 46 gigawatt of projects has been constructed, out of which we have been associated with almost 25%. So we have a pretty large market share in terms of construction of hydropower projects.
All right. What about the outlook in terms of how much hydropower actually contributes to your total order book, and what is the expectation as well when it comes to irrigation and tunneling projects? How will that help to increase your order inflow down the line?
Sort of a current order book of almost 17,900 crores, 61% comes from the hydro segment, around 20% comes from the irrigation segment, 10-11% comes from the tunneling segment. So all three combined consists of almost 90% of our order book. What we see expect is that this will continue in future also. Hydro will continue to be one of the largest contributors to our order book in the next 4-5 years at least. What we see is pump storage projects would also become a large portion of our order book going forward, because a lot of works are coming there as well. So combined with them, all these more than 90% will continue between these three segments only.
And what about the outlook in terms of, what you can expect on a year-on-year basis in terms of addition to your order book? Can you just tell us a little bit more about the ordering activity?
So ordering activity has started post elections, and we see orders start coming in from Q3, Q4. What we expect is we'll bid for almost 50,000 crores of work in next year or so, out of which around 10 to 15,000 crores of new orders are expected to come in. Good ordering would continue over the next few years because there are a lot of projects in pipeline. Hydro, I told you, PSP, I told you, in terms of irrigation, almost 70,000 crores of work, Jal Jeevan Mission projects have been allocated in this year's budget. Pradhan Mantri Krishi Yojana also around more than 9,000 crores. And this is only center, states are separate. Then coming to tunneling segment also, more than 800 projects covering more than 2,500 kilometers of work are there in tunneling segment also. So we see a huge potential. Government has allocated almost 11 lakh crores of rupees for infrastructure in this budget, and this allocation is expected to go up only in future.
Yes, indeed, there has been a lot of focus. And what about your operational performance? Give us a sense as to what the outlook is on your margins. Are you on track to meet a 14 to 15% EBITDA margin for the fiscal?
Yeah, so we expect to maintain 14 to 15% margins in this fiscal. We had done a revenue of almost 4,500 odd crores last year. So this year, because of the subdued orders inflow due to elections in the last year, we expect our revenue to grow by 10%. But next year, going forward, we expect a CAGR of more than 15% year on year.
And what about the outlook on your revenue run rate? It was a little bit flat in the previous quarter. What are going to be your revenue growth drivers? Where is it that you see your net profits headed? And what will be the key growth drivers here as well?
So this year we see a revenue growth of almost 10%. Uh, Next year, FY26 onwards, we see a CAGR growth of almost 15% year on year. And profits, we have been improving our profits every year because we have reduced our debt considerably. We had a peak debt of more than 5,500 crores, which has come down to almost 1,500 crores today. And if you see our interest cost, finance cost has been going down every year. So what we expect is even if with increase in order book, we will reduce our term debts over the next 2, 3 years. And even if we borrow additional money for working capital, our overall debt would not increase. So what we would expect to see is that the revenues are going up and there would be additional EBITDA generated, but the finance costs would not go up. So that would add to the bottom line directly.
What about the ATP projects that were by the CEA? Can you just tell us a little bit more about what kind of ordering opportunity you see from that and what the outlook is in terms of the pipeline of tunnels?
More than 2,500 kilometers of work is expected to come, and this would cover tunneling works for railways, for roads, as well as for water pipelines. So, and spread across states like J&K, Himachal, Maharashtra. So it is spread across all throughout, and huge potential of work. The Maharashtra government is also looking to expect to come up with huge projects. So yeah, I mean the potential is there.
All right. And, given the kind of returns that you've got for the shareholders, the fact that, it's seen a lot of investor interest, would you like to share a message to the shareholders as to what your internal targets are, as to what the game plan is or the strategy is for the long term?
So the strategies for long term is simple. We will continue to take selective projects. There are huge projects, number of projects coming up, so there's enough to take for all. We will continue to take selectively projects so that we are able to maintain our EBITDA margins and grow steadily and we continue to grow. So we would like to, almost coming from a 5,000 crore revenue to a 10,000 crore revenue over 5 years from here.
Given that you're at the helm of a company that is entrenched in a very popular sector, an EPC player, irrigation, urban infrastructure, give us an outlook as to what are the pearls of advice that you have or the pearls of wisdom, or any learnings, any lessons that you can share with us.
So learnings and lessons is simple that we should stick to our basics, concentrate on the core business, and do what you do the best. and success will be there. This we have seen over the last 4 5 years. Our order revenue in the COVID year was 1900 crores, and last year we completed at 4500. So steadily our profits, revenues, and order book has been growing because we are concentrating on the core business and continue to monetize non-core assets to reduce the debt.
Okay, good to have you joining in. Thank you so very much for taking the time out, and here's wishing you all the very best for the future.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks a
you.
lot.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel and click on the bell icon to never miss an update from Nirmal Bang.